Every journey has a beginning, but they don't always need an end. When we strive to enact positive change here in Scotland and around the world, change is an ever-evolving journey. One full of discovery, full of collaboration, full of coming together to see eye to eye. Over the next 45 minutes, we are delighted to introduce to you Journey to Change, new messaging, a new direction from Visit Scotland to showcase the impact that business events have to change the world. We'll hear from an organisation that amplifies the voice of a global industry. We'll hear about one event that has the power to fight climate change. We'll discover an economic model that puts people and planet first. Over 400 friends from around the world have registered to attend this event. So wherever you are, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, and welcome to Virtual Scotland. We encourage you to ask questions using the chat function, and we'll answer as many as we can towards the end of the event. We also encourage you to join the conversation on social media. Since 2012, Visit Scotland has been a strategic partner of PCMA, the largest network of business events professionals in the world. PCMA have been at the forefront of redefining business events as catalysts for economic and social change. Neil Brownlee, Head of Business Events for Visit Scotland, had the opportunity to speak with the President and CEO of PCMA, Sherrif Karamat. They discussed the previous 12 months, look to the future, and discuss the idea behind Journey to Change. Neil, over to you.
Good afternoon. Long before COVID was even a word, a lot of effort had gone into raising business events to a higher strategic level. A lot of work had gone into Scotland and all of our competitors around the world to try and reposition business events as far more than just part of the visitor economy. One of the organizations that had put a lot of effort into trying to help or lead this discussion has been PCMA. And I wanted to catch up with the President and CEO, Sherrif Karamat, to ask him his views on how the last 12 months, it is a year now, has changed what we're trying to do in terms of truly, once and for all, repositioning business events as catalysts for economic and social progress. So Sherrif, welcome to our launch today. I know you're based in Toronto in Canada, and I wanted to just find out what your views on over the last 12 months.
Thank you, Neil. Thank you for having me. Good day, everyone, and hello to all my friends in Scotland. Indeed, it has been an incredible year of change, and certainly I want to recognize our healthcare workers, our frontline employees that have done so much to keep us all safe over the past year. You know, so many things have changed, Neil, but one thing for sure has been a spotlight on the importance and the role that business events play in solving complex issues around the world. By the virtue of the absence of face-to-face business events, it has highlighted even more so the importance of what this industry does. It is a meta industry that impacts all other industries, and the resulting COVID has made us have to do things very differently, digitally, online, but it really put a spotlight on why we come together, why business events is needed, and the amount of work that needs to be done. It also highlighted a weakness in all of us, and that is the fact that we're unprepared for surprises. And this year, though, showed that we are resilient and that we can rise to the challenge. But it has given us an opportunity of a lifetime to really demonstrate what business events can do going forward, now that we all understand the power of what coming together and solving issues that face our world really means.
Great. And do you feel that the language we've used in the past and perhaps are going to have to use moving forward, has that is that really going to change that much? Because I feel that's one thing we have to try and harness as we re-emerge from this. And one expression that we've coined here in Scotland is that business events are policy platforms. They are showcases for Scotland to showcase itself in any policy area that the government might be keen on pursuing. And these will not be greatly different from other countries or at a city or national or regional level. But in terms of trying to harness that and try to get that across to stakeholders, not just in government, but also in sectors within the country at various levels, do we feel that the word change is a useful word? Are we saying change forever or gradual or what? Do you think change is the right word?
Yeah, I sometimes I focus on the word outcomes, but I do think that that results in us changing and adapting. And I focus on the word outcomes, but change is very, very important in the narrative. We should look at what business events is intended to do and what was. What we have done in the past, and very eloquently, is focus on how we do what we do, but not the real purpose. And what I hear you say, and what the country of Scotland is attempting to do, and thus other countries, is using the business events platform as a driver of economic and social good. So connecting the industries in Scotland and then communities and cities across the country to what's important for economic growth and social growth. And yes, other cities and countries around the world will do the same, but the industries and sectors that are important to Scotland might be very, very different than what's important to other countries. The bottom line, though, is even if they are the same, our world is a big place with enormous population, and Scotland sits in an area that can not only drive growth for Scotland as a country, but the UK, but the entire European Union and so forth. So that position of and that journey of change, to me, is not a point in time. It's going to be a continuous journey. For once you achieve certain things, you will continue to push the goalpost of what the Scottish people and the country wants to achieve.
With outcomes, the minefield of legacy, this is a word that's been bandied around for many years now. And I'm not sure that the man in the street necessarily grasps legacy or necessarily trusts it. And I wanted to get your take on, is it the right word? Or is it truly looking at the future, or is it something backwards, legacy?
Yeah, words are powerful, and I believe that words are extremely powerful with how we convey what we're trying to say. Legacy is an important word, but I do think it's looking into the past as opposed to positioning things on future growth and forward thinking. Whenever you speak to a younger person, they tend to think legacy involves being older. And so as in terms of presenting ideas and thoughts in a very positive way forward and talking about impact and outcomes, looking at it as in future focus. Yesterday is yesterday and you cannot change it, but we have today and future. And so we focus on how we're changing tomorrow and today for our nation, our people. And so from that essence, and it's very cerebral when you think about that, I understand. Now, if you put that into context, it is about future building. It's about starting from where you're at, knowing that we cannot impact what has gone before us, but we can learn from it, we can build upon it and move forward. So I do think the word legacy, while it's a great word, we should be more future and forward thinking.
And I think to that as well, when you mentioned that business events is a meta industry, they also need to help us, the other sectors, the other industries need to help us perhaps measure the future building in terms of, they'll know better than us perhaps what differences that has made holding that particular business event, because we can often measure the easiest bits. I always will say to various colleagues here who will listen that business events are the most measurable part of the visitor economy. We know everything. We do track and trace by default. There's nothing we don't know about every single delegate that a delegate wouldn't mind about, but also that's the nature of what we do. But I think that the big leap is to engage with all the other sectors in Scotland and policy areas who might know better than myself and my team, who will certainly know better than myself and my team, what the future building could be, whether we call it legacy or whatever that measurement might be. They have to help us actually create the measurement in the first place. And that's a big step, I think, of what we're trying to do here.
Well, I think that there's two parts, Neil, and one is that it's important to understand the spend that you're spending to achieve your means. So on what I would say is that this industry has done a really good job in understanding the spend, which has been largely on the supply side. But understanding the demand side and the impact of that demand side we've not done a good job. And so you rightfully pointed out that this is a meta industry. The business events industry impacts every other industry in the country of Scotland, but in the world, period, paragraph. And so, but I think that there's an element there that we must work together is important, not necessarily expecting them to do it for us, but us meeting them halfway. The reality is that once they understand what they're spending and the power of that spend, you will see them want to use the platform of business events even more, because they will be actually attributing the outcomes to the activity of a business event. Currently, I think corporations and associations alike are not very good at articulating the exact value of what they commit to through a business event with respect to the outcomes. And if we focus on the outcome of those events, which means proper measurement tools over time, you will see a very, very different narrative from the different sectors encouraging more business events to drive economic growth. The thing that business event does, and it does many things, but the thing that it does, it fosters human connections, bring people together where we can look at each other in the eye like we're doing today to solve complex issues. You don't do that by sitting halfway around the world staring at screens. And certainly relationships, when they're fostered face-to-face, they then are easier to do business online. So I am very bullish about the digital economy. And I think it's got a great place in business events, but it's a combination of face-to-face and digital, or online and offline, that will truly drive the outcomes that we're looking for.
I agree entirely, and I think you used the example in a call recently we had around online shopping for our groceries. You know, what was your analogy? We can buy them online, but we don't mind going to the shop to buy them.
Yeah, and I look at a grocery store as a face-to-face event, and I look at online shopping as a digital event. They're very, very different experiences, and in certain instances, you will have the exact same outcome, or you will have an experience where you're allowed to pick your vegetables and your fruits and your meats and so forth, and then you can have someone else do it for you. So it's a different experience, but you can achieve the outcomes that you're looking for based on the channel that you choose.
And just quickly on that, the sustainable debate. Now this, it was a year into this pandemic, and I do see a lot of commentators and organizations around the world picking up the sustainable conversation again, as if nothing's happened or nothing's changed. And I think that the great unsaid thing is that the COVID pandemic showed a lot of things that have changed when people stop moving around, such as the clear waters of Venice, which are an early and very famous example of what happens when people stop moving around. How do you feel the sustainable argument has changed? Is it all part of the meeting with a purpose coming to the fore?
Well, I do think that let's relate it to sustainability, and let's use the term climate change for a moment.
Yes.
Okay. To really make an appreciable difference to climate change, it's more than just changing behaviors. And I want to use an analogy because I do that a lot, and maybe I'll make a point. And that is people that go on diets, right? We can lose a little bit of weight, 10 kilos, 20 kilos, and then we can come months later, we've gained it all back because it's very hard to sustain. The reality is that climate change is truly the threat to all of us on this planet, and we must address it. But we cannot address it as an industry by thinking that we will solve it by removing plastic straws. Certainly it helps, but what we need to do is understand that human beings, we need to have personal connections. We will travel. We are explorers. So subsequently, we have to design things that will allow for it. For example, the type of aircrafts we design and build, and the materials that we use, the type of fuel that we're using, the type of cars that we drive, and the emissions from those cars. Those are the things that are going to make monumental differences in climate change, and thus really move the needle on sustainability and renewable energy and all that. But thinking, yes, we can change certain things, but assuming that you're going to tell human beings that they can't travel anymore, I just think that that is wishful thinking. I also think it is not, in a very funny way, not sustainable.
I agree. It's not sustainable for a lot of health reasons as well, as we've known from the last 12 months. And I think also it's good to reassure everyone watching that a lot of the trends that we are seeing at the moment, or direction of travel with things changing, it was PCMA's own research in the Compass report that confirmed that a lot of these were beginning to happen anyway before the pandemic hit. They were already making themselves felt. The pandemic's really just accelerated them, and that's what we have to react to and perhaps get ahead of as well. Just to finish off, I think the journey word, this made me think of, my gosh, where's the end point? Where's the horizon? Where does it stop? But I also felt, talking of legacy, perhaps a legacy computer game, those old arcade games where you drive on the road and the road would never run out. Which one do you think this is? Is this a computer driving game, or is there an end? Is there a full stop, a period at some point?
No, there is no such a thing in life. As humans, that is why we're always and forever evolving. And tomorrow there will be new cures, new diseases that will come about, new things that were going to be challenging us. Today we have everything from religious divide to diseases, to you name it, that challenges us. And climate change that challenges us. We are going to solve those, and we'll encounter new challenges. And that's the beauty of life, that it actually continues to give us purpose. And it continues to make the importance of business events and the relevance of business events, where we're fostering human connections, where we're bringing people together to solve complex issues and simple issues. And we are fostering understanding around cultures and humanity around the world. And I think this is never, ever going to end. You and I are going to evolve, and we're going to evolve in our thinking, which means that we will need to come together to solve how our thinking evolves, because they might not be the same. They might be diametrically opposite. That does not mean either is wrong or either is right. It means it's different. And just so that we can coexist as just as an idea, I think it's exciting times for business events, but it's also exciting times to recognize the importance that business events is playing in our community growth, in our country growth, economic and socially. It's just so powerful. And I am, if I can use the term, bullish about our future, because I feel this recognition in our industry and in sectors across the world that knows that business events can drive outcomes that are productive for society.
Wonderful. Well, thank you very much for joining us on this journey to change, Sherrif, at the start of it, and for your really valuable insights. I can't thank you enough. So we hope to be able to meet you face to face as soon as we can, hopefully in 2021. But thanks again for your contributions, and for now it's back to Edinburgh. Thank you.
Neil, I thank you for having me. It is absolutely a pleasure to be with you and all of Scotland today. And I too look forward to hopefully visiting Scotland during the year in 2021, but certainly seeing you soon. Great. Take care all.
And back to the studio. Thank you.
Huge thanks to both Neil and Sherrif for those very profound and insightful insights about our industry. I think a couple of key things to highlight from what Sherrif has been sharing with us is this idea or this knowledge that business events provide human and personal connections, and haven't we missed those? And also, it gives the platform to solve the big world issues, which is so cool. He also touched on the fact that we are completely unique. We're a meta industry. We work with all sectors and all industries, which is quite an amazing thing. He also touched on the fact, quite rightly, that climate change is the biggest challenge of our time. So how very timely that from the 1st to the 12th of November this year, COP26 will be held in Scotland, in Glasgow. This event brings the world together to discuss our planet. This business event has that power. It now gives me great pleasure to introduce our next contributor, who's going to tell us a bit more about the opportunities for Scotland from COP26. Here's Claire Mack, the CEO of Scottish Renewables.
My name is Claire Mack and I'm Chief Executive of Scottish Renewables, and I want to talk about the opportunity that the COP26 event coming to Glasgow means for us as a nation. Scottish Renewables is the voice of the renewable energy industry, and our vision is for Scotland leading the world in renewables. COP26 provides us the perfect platform to spotlight our successes in renewable energy and in driving the low carbon economy. As you may know, Scotland already meets 90% of its electricity demand from renewable sources. And how have we done this? We've done this through the deployment of technologies like hydro, wind, onshore and offshore, and solar in order to start driving that low carbon economy. Climate change is one of the greatest threats facing humanity, and Scotland has the people and skills to help the rest of the world address it. When the eyes of the world are on us as COP26 comes to Glasgow in November 2021, we will be able to showcase some of the extensive experience that we have that will be useful to the rest of the world on their low carbon journeys. We've identified 3 different pillars where we excel in Scotland that other countries may be able to use in order to help them meet the challenge of climate change. Through our extensive experience and expertise in energy generation, we have the people and skills who could help others make that same journey. We've also got extensive expertise in terms of nature-based solutions and driving biodiversity as a solution to climate change. We also have the technology through the deployment of renewable energy and creation of integrated energy systems which the rest of the world can look to use for their own decarbonisation journeys. Scotland can really help shift the dial in terms of climate change, and COP presents us with a unique opportunity to showcase that expertise across the globe. We've also got the opportunity to showcase some of our newer and emerging technologies such as wave and tidal. Scotland has a world lead in developing wave and tidal, and it's something that we can offer to the rest of the world. COP26 arguably provides one of the last opportunities to do something really meaningful about climate change, and Scotland can take its place on the world stage to help the rest of the world make that journey. Bringing people together in one place to see eye to eye to help make the world a better place and help solve the world's problems such as climate change is truly one of the most important aspects of the COP26 event.
Thank you, Claire. And I don't know about you, but I know that in November, when the eyes of the world are on Scotland, I'll certainly be feeling very proud, as Claire said, that not only do we get this opportunity to shine a light on what we're doing here with our expertise in this very important field, but also that we get to collaborate with other countries and to help them with their climate change strategies. Collaboration is key, and collaboration is something at the heart of everything that we do in business events. We do it with our clients and with our events, and it's pretty inspiring. Next on our journey today, we're taking a look at something very different. So Scotland is a founding member of the Wellbeing economy. And this is a governmental organisation with New Zealand, Finland, Wales and Iceland, looking at the economics and what drives us. So today we're taking a look at what that means for us and what that means in general, and how the opportunities could be there for Scotland if we are brave.
Hi, I'm Katherine Trebeck from the Wellbeing Economy Alliance, which is a global collaboration of organisations and people and scholars and activists and businesses and networks from around the world that are working very, very hard to transform the economic system to one that delivers social justice on a healthy planet, what we describe as a wellbeing economy. And after the disruption of the last 12 months or so, with all the turmoil or the hurt or the loss or the uncertainty that is still to come, we have to, as societies, really focus on learning from this wonderful phrase that Fred Swaneker, who's a co-founder of the African Leadership Academy, said, in that we need to make COVID the first phase of the next stage. And that's about taking this huge disruption and saying it's not good enough to go back to how things were prior to COVID, with the inequality and the unsustainable patterns of our economic development model. Now is the opportunity to really redesign and repurpose our economic systems so that they are geared up, concertedly designed in a way to deliver what people and planet need. And Scotland's making a good start on that. There's a lot going on here, whether it's Scotland's leadership of the Wellbeing Economy, government's partnership, a group of governments that includes New Zealand, Iceland, Finland and Wales, who are coming together to collaborate, to share stories and experiences and challenges about how to put collective wellbeing at the heart of policymaking, whether it's our support for pro-social business models like social enterprise and worker cooperatives and so on, whether it's amazing work being done to build a circular economy, whether it's the plethora of pro-social businesses that are saying we want to be part of the solution, we want to be commercially viable and successful as a business, but do so for higher order goals such as delivering social and environmental benefits, and whether it's for the community groups across Scotland that are working together out of a shared sense of purpose, of supporting each other, making life better for each other, and doing so through collaboration. So across Scotland, ideas are emerging, new ways of doing things are being tested and rolled out. And the prospects, though, about adding that all up to the sort of system change that we require hinges on one thing, on collaboration. Will we really learn from each other enough? Are we together enough to spark ideas, to see that change in practice, to feel that a different future is possible? Only that will come about if we work together in ways like we've never worked before, really link arms together, experiment together, be bold together. The Wellbeing Economy Alliance was created out of a faith that through collaboration, we can do extraordinary things as societies, including that enormous task of building an economy that works for people and planet. By working together, by supporting everyone's unique contribution to that jigsaw of changes that's required, by learning from the efforts already underway, we will find that looking back is not an option. Not when the way ahead is so extraordinarily possible, when we see it in microcosm already around Scotland and around the planet, and when the way ahead is so extraordinary, necessary and worthwhile and exciting. Thank you so much.
Through collaboration, we can do extraordinary things. Powerful words from Dr. Trebeck on putting people and planet first. We cannot go back. We must all embrace building back better, which is at the very core of Visit Scotland's vision for events and tourism. Before COVID raised its head and the entire world came to a standstill, we had already begun looking at how business events impact communities here in Scotland and around the world. The answer was simple: change. Industries and sectors have a platform through international congresses and conferences where big ideas can be discovered that change the world. Start-up and scale-up companies have a spotlight through business events. Social justice is amplified when people come together to meet face-to-face, to see eye to eye, and ensure that voices less heard can take centre stage. Global challenges can be addressed. Solutions have the potential to be found. COP26, when it comes to Scotland in November later this year, will be the most important event on the planet. Now, this is all absolutely incredible. We've used all of this information with our new initiative, Journey to Change, where we have worked with social enterprises, pro-social companies, charities, local communities to create messaging that ensures that the opportunity for engagement, the potential to enact change is easy for you. Our new direction, our new journey embraces collaboration where we can do extraordinary things. Our industry, by its very nature, is full of journeys. When the time is right, the journey to change starts in Scotland.
Many journeys begin in Scotland. Inspired by our pioneering spirit, our commitment to equality, and our constant strive in the pursuit for better. This is where minds meet. And the journey to change begins. When we bring scientists together, we find cures. When we bring world leaders together, we fight the climate crisis. When we bring big thinkers together, they arrive at the answer. And now, it's your turn. Our stages are set. Platforms for big ideas and new approaches. Our speakers amplify the opinions of brilliant minds. Our spotlights focus on the world's most pressing issues. Together, we have the power to change the world. And this is the place to make it happen. When the time is right, start the journey to change in Scotland.
Hello again. I do hope you enjoyed that amazing video, but I hope you especially noticed the projections. Those were real projections on some of our iconic buildings and landscapes. Be sure to check them out when we show you the video again in a few minutes' time. I also hope that over the last 30 minutes or so, you've got some food for thought on how to look at business events differently, how they could be used as platforms for policy, also as milestones on the road to a better Scotland and a better world. This is not an odyssey with random stop-offs towards an indeterminate destination. This is about using business events as planned policy platforms for the next 5 years, 10 years, to deliver Scotland's ambitions and indeed the world's ambitions, so we can all have a better world. I'm now going to work with Rory on what I hope will be the first and only socially distanced Q&A for Journey to Change. And he's been keeping an eye on all of the questions coming in. So Rory, what have you got for us?
Thanks, Neil. Well, they are coming in thick and fast. And I think a real popular one has been, how do we get involved? And certainly, I think from my perspective, and the easiest way is that many from our stakeholders and from our partners all around Scotland have sustainability initiatives within their businesses. We have corporate social responsibility initiatives. And it's about getting out there and shouting about what is going on within their own organisations, joining social media and sharing those stories and explaining how companies and organisations who are looking to book events can engage with those activities. And that's just at the easiest level. Do you have anything to add into that, Neil?
Yes, I think the other thing I would say, and also to people viewing our 400 online audience out there, one of the beauties of the policy-driven model upon which Journey to Change is based is the fact that it is not only the tourism sector or the visitor economy that can join us on this journey. This is about connecting the nodes of different sectors and policy areas. So you do not need to be a hotel or a venue to get the most out of this journey. And what I would say to any event strategist or business events planner out there who might have a meeting, a business event to bring to Scotland, is use us, Visit Scotland, as the bridge with our policy-driven model to connect you with government and with our enterprise agencies here in Scotland, and let us help you find the outcomes or help you deliver your outcomes in Scotland.
No, brilliant. One that's been really popular as well has just been about sustainability and how we ensure we're creating a more sustainable future for the industry. I mean, certainly from Visit Scotland's perspective, we have become the first national tourism board to join Tourism Declares, an organisation that is uniting tourism industries around the world to declare a climate emergency. We have in-house teams who are working with initiatives on how we as Visit Scotland ourselves can be sustainable, and then working on initiatives that take that across the whole of the industry throughout Scotland. We had Travelist launched within Scotland just last year, just prior to COVID, if we can remember what that's like. But I wondered if you had anything else more to add to that, just from your conversation with Sherrif.
Yes, I think the big pickup for me is when Sherrif said that this is not just about not using plastic straws. And it actually relates to the wider sustainability or unsustainability of people not traveling again. And I think what we've seen over the last 12 months or so, and certainly everyone out there watching, is that everything truly is interconnected. And when we look at the regional tourism offering, or in our towns or coastal areas, we've seen in stark clarity how interconnected everything is. And I want to talk up rather than dial down the important contribution, the critical contribution of business events to the visitor economy. We are part of tourism, but the tourism contribution, if you like, to the sustainability of our regional and rural areas, our hotels and venues, our bed and breakfasts, that contribution also comes with an ability to align it with whatever the regional priorities might be. But I would say to the 100 or so hoteliers watching us at the moment, you are critical to what we do, and I believe business events are absolutely fundamental to driving bed nights, room nights into your hotels. That's one of the aces that we have with business events.
Well, just to kind of hang on to that, I'm subject to sustainability. We've had a brand new question coming in, and it is asking about, how do we promote business events for inbound tourism whilst being environmentally sustainable, bearing in mind the CO2 emissions per delegate. I think it's really important to put out there that we're not saying that we are the experts that know everything, and that by doing this journey to change, we're working together to find the solutions and to find answers to the big questions that we need to do to make sure that our industry is a leader amongst all different sectors.
Yes, and I think that's exactly what Sherrif's point was. It's working with the airlines, it's working with transportation companies. It's not so much that we travel, it's how we travel in the future. And that's going to be a big part of meeting with a purpose, but also traveling with a purpose as we come out of this pandemic. I've got a question for you, Rory, if I may.
We haven't rehearsed this.
Well, it's a question that a few people from outside in the sector have asked us, from tourism and elsewhere. And it's clear to me and others, and of course it's clear to me, but how with the Journey to Change? It's clear it works for association congresses, the academic world and everything. But tell me how this is going to work for the incentives market, the corporate meetings market, the AGMs of this world. How's it going to work?
No, it's a really, really good question. As you touched on, associations have been involved in the world of legacy or impacts or future building, as Sherrif referred to it earlier, for a number of years. But we believe in Visit Scotland, and so do many of our industry friends here in Scotland and across the world, that the concept of legacy, impacts, future building also completely applies to the incentive and the corporate world. If you decide to go on a Highland safari in the Highlands of Scotland, or if you choose to do mini Highland games in one of our fantastic estates in the West Coast, you can start thinking about how you can connect your delegates with local communities, with the landscape. We have organisations that are replanting Scotland's forests. That could then take over as an incentive and team building activity. We make sure we are sourcing our food from sustainable sources, from local areas, and we can work with various different organisations and sustainability groups throughout Scotland to really push in tailored ideas for your itineraries and tailored team building activities that will help the planet and help the local communities that those events are taking place in.
Okay, great. So we, Visit Scotland, we can be the conduit to helping your organisation find that connection as well. And it's about the giving back. It's about perhaps speaking to local school kids. It could be about helping the homeless project nearby. We can join all those dots for you. And if you're a business event strategist and you're unsure perhaps of a policy connection with Scotland, or it just so happens there isn't a local factory related to your organisation in Scotland, speak to us and we will help you find a connection and a very good reason to bring your business event to Scotland. I think that's fair.
Absolutely, absolutely. You're my boss, I agree. I suppose we've got time for one last question, and we have touched on it a little bit with a few of the other questions, and that is, how do we bring change into an event? I mean, certainly from our perspective in the association sectors market and a little bit in the corporate incentive as well, one of our biggest cities, or our biggest city in Scotland, Glasgow, they have had the People Makes Glasgow Healthier initiative in place for a while now, and that is using the medical conferences that come to the city to outreach into the local population. So that could be to bring attention to certain diseases, to push out there that we should be getting checkups for certain different things regularly. And in 2019 alone, I believe over 1,500 citizens were positively affected by the initiatives that the city put in place for a number of different conferences. And in 2018, we did have the World Down Syndrome Conference also in Glasgow. And there was a huge amount of outreach to cafes, to restaurants, to bars, to hotels, for ensuring that equality and diversity was absolutely top of the outcomes that they wanted from that event.
Yeah, and I think equally it's the fact that these business events, whether it's the World's Down Syndromes Congress or COP26, they don't sneak up on us. We sometimes have up to 5-6 years notice for them. And that's where you build in the journey to change. That's where you build in the policy alignment. As soon as you know it's coming, that's when we can bring everyone together to work out what that future building should look like.
Yeah, absolutely. And we have connections with our innovation centres in Scotland, our 19 higher educational institutes, our research centres, so we can find that connection and make those introductions to the organisations and the sector experts that you need to have in order to make those really impactful events for your event, for the local community, and then something that can then be transferred to benefit the entire world.
Just one final thing I'll say before I hand back to you. This is about a journey, as we've been saying now for nearly 45 minutes, but it's about progress as well. It's about social and economic progress driven by business events. And progress is a key word too, because that means it's moving forward. This isn't about total change overnight. It's about progress and nudging things along the road. And that's what this journey to change is about.
Yeah. And with that, this journey to change has just started. This event is about to finish. However, we just want to take a few seconds just to thank you for all joining us from across the world. It's been our pleasure and our excitement to introduce this new messaging, this new initiative, and our mini film. We really hope to welcome you in the very near future when the time is right, so that this journey to change can continue. Thank you.
Many journeys begin in Scotland. Inspired by our pioneering spirit, our commitment to equality, and our constant strive in the pursuit for better. This is where minds meet. And the journey to change begins. When we bring scientists together, we find cures. When we bring world leaders together, we fight the climate crisis. When we bring big thinkers together, they arrive at the answer. And now, it's your turn. Our stages are set. Platforms for big ideas and new approaches. Our speakers amplify the opinions of brilliant minds. Our spotlights focus on the world's most pressing issues. Together, we have the power to change the world. And this is the place to make it happen. When the time is right, start the journey to change in Scotland.